My wife had an emotional affair with another man, and I began a second family as a result. Despite my grief for inflicting pain on my wife, I do not regret spending time with my lover. I met my wife while I was in my early 20s, when I was just starting out in my pilot career. She was witty, and we had a lot of things in common that we could talk about. Prior to being married, we dated for a number of years before getting together. We have 2 children together, a boy and a girl. Since we began having children, she has reduced her hours at her job as a hotel hostess, and she finally resigned when I began earning 6-figure income. It was almost 10 years into our marriage that we had our first serious marital disagreement. My wife had an emotional affair with this man who she met on the internet because she wanted confirmation that she was attractive and a good person. I was irritated because she should have searched for confirmation from someone other than me. Even more enraged was the fact that it was my kid who had found and watched horrible online interactions between my wife and the other individual, as well as having viewed indecent photographs. We went to marital counseling, and it was there that I discovered she had been having emotional affairs with a number of other men for the previous 2 years. During the conversation, she said that she was pleased with the situation at home. She had a large home in a desirable area, a lovely husband, 2 beautiful children, 2 wonderful automobiles, a boat, and a strong extended family network, as well as financial stability. She had everything she needed. She, on the other hand, was envious and insecure. She realized that I was becoming more appealing as I grew older. She had the impression that things were different for her. My mother assumed that while I was overseas, I would be meeting up with attractive ladies and flight attendants at 5-star resorts. Because of my job, we were always apart, and she craved some harmless attention from me. The only way forward was for us to work through these challenges together, and I made an effort to pay more attention to her while I was at home. She, on the other hand, tended to prioritize her demands above mine. The hatred my son had towards his mother had been building up ever since he learned about the emotional affair. He characterized her as a housewife who had nothing better to do with her time than spend the money her father earned and chat with other housewives. He used to believe that his mother was an inept airhead while he was in his teens. According to him, his mother's worries were largely about first-world difficulties and entitlement issues. In a sense, I secretly agreed with him on a number of points. She has a lot of shallowness about her. She is concerned with how others see her, and she enjoys putting up pictures of herself for her friends and neighbors to view. Even though she was a full-time housewife, my wife did not take care of all of the domestic chores. We had a cleaner come in on Saturdays and Sundays to assist us. Because she had other arrangements, there were occasions when I got home from work with nothing to eat. There were also no leftovers to be found. Because I travel regularly, I experience tension and loneliness while I am away from my family and friends. My mental health suffered greatly as a result of the additional stress caused by my marital problems. It was important to me at this time in my life to make some new acquaintances in countries that I visited often in order to alleviate my feelings of loneliness and to move on from the bad emotions I had linked with my marriage. I made a few new male and female acquaintances. One of my female pals ended up being my lover in the end. I was 36 years old at the time, and she was 19 when we initially became acquainted as acquaintances. My relationship with her was that of a big brother role since she did not come from a loving home. We got really intoxicated and had one night while we were celebrating her 20th birthday, which had just passed a few days before, with her friends. At that moment, I began to see her in a different perspective. She was able to make me feel valued in a manner that my wife was unable to. My sweetheart was delighted by my adoration since she had never known love from her family before. Her pregnancy was discovered after we had prolonged our connection for a period of time. Because she wanted to have a child with someone she cares about, she desired to retain the kid. After a while, this lady, whom I believed to be my second wife, gave birth to 2 kids for me. I decided it was time to tell my family about my secret a little over a decade later, which was 2 years ago, since I believed it was the perfect time for them to know. As a result of my lover's death, I was consumed with remorse and believed that my boys from that relationship deserved to know their paternal heritage. My children, along with my wife, We're all grown up by this time, 19M and 17F. In the middle of the night, I called a family gathering and exposed my secret. My family members were very distraught, and they needed time to process what had occurred to them. I was ejected from the residence without a word. Despite the fact that he was upset, my son swiftly changed his mind. Our relationship is really solid since my kid has always been closer to me than he has been to his mother. My wife and I worked things out over the course of a month, and she had come to terms with what had transpired. I admit that I lied about having regrets about having an affair and forming a new family after the fact. The only thing I actually feel bad about is that I had caused harm to my wife and my elder children in the process. Actually, my partner and our children had helped me become a happy person. Some days I even regret telling everyone about the secret since it was such a noble effort. The reason I did it was for the sake of my younger children. My lover's side of the family is complete and utter garbage. When my wife and I discussed my desire to be a part of my second family's life, we came up with a set of rules that we could agree on as a couple. My daughter had a negative reaction to my secret, and I believe that there is still a gulf between us, despite the passage of 2 years. She was still willing to communicate with me. However, she has become much more cautious in recent years and would no longer come to me for counsel as she used to. My daughter has always been closer to her mother, and she is likely to provide my wife with the emotional support that I am unable to provide when I am away on work assignments. As soon as my in-laws discovered what I was doing, my brother-in-law and I got into a violent confrontation before being separated. When my in-laws discovered that I had cheated on their daughter/sister with a young harlot gold digger, they were furious, just to name a few. My religiously devout parents and siblings were taken aback by the revelation. They did, however, express an interest in getting to know my second family, which I appreciated. My kid, mother, and siblings were given the option to go to another country in order to meet my boyfriend and younger boys. My kid and my second family have formed a strong relationship. My wife has become much more emotionally dependent in recent months. I see that my actions have caused her distress, and I sincerely apologize for having done so. However, deep down within, I know that my connection with my partner was a good thing for me. I am aware that my feelings for my lover are just as strong as my feelings for my wife. I'm not sure why I'm feeling this way. Since I exposed the secret, my wife has been more affectionate toward me, holding my arms when we chat, initiating with me on a more frequent basis, and devoting more time to her appearance for me. In the past, when I turned her down because I was too exhausted from work, she accused me of thinking she was ugly. I can't bring myself to say no to her anymore. She recently informed me that she wants to get cosmetic surgery. What irritates me is that some of these treatments are ones that she believes I would like to have done. For example, she would want to have a vaginal tightening surgery performed on her. Personally, I don't believe she needs to make any adjustments to her behavior. However, I'm not even sure whether I should say anything at this point. My sweetheart has been a saint in my life, and I am grateful to him. When I get off the aircraft and return to my hometown, I am always welcomed with a hug by her and my sons. I would be able to get a fragrance of a freshly prepared home-cooked supper. Then I'd go take a shower and catch up on their life, or my boyfriend would make a big deal about me. I get to have a lovely supper with my family before spending some time with the fellas. After that, I go to my room. Normally, my lover would accompany me. My sweetheart is the epitome of a conventional wife, and I adore her for recognizing and accepting me as her husband. The fact that we have a quiet agreement that we would follow the conventional gender roles in marriage means that we have relatively few disagreements. We both do a good job in our respective roles. My sweetheart has made it clear that she would want to have another kid with me. Although I believe this will be beneficial, I believe it will also be detrimental to the balance of my marriage. I got the impression that my wife is attempting to make it seem as if I am not having relations with my boyfriend. I may even make my wife feel slighted by the fact that I have more children with my lover than I have with her, and that the money digger would get a larger share of my estate when I die. We had talked about this before. I am already 48 years old. I don't want to be one of those fathers who seems to be the child's grandfather, even if I am 10 years younger than the child. I wouldn't mind having another one if you don't mind my saying so, I like being a parent, yet I can't ignore the wants of my beloved completely. She has done an excellent job of looking after myself and my 2 youngsters. In all honesty, the occurrence of an accident would be quite appealing to me. As a result of my family's dysfunctional dynamic, I am always torn about the whole scenario.